Hi, everyone. Thank you very, very much for coming. We have a great show today because we have Kari Hagensmith today, and she is going to talk about debt, the meaning of debt, how you could use debt, and the good, the ugly, the safe, the everything about debt. So thank you very much, Kari, for coming. And we're so thrilled you are here. We love to learn, and please take it away.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Peggy. Really great to meet all of you. I'd give you a little quick background about myself. Back in the day, I was a certified goals coach with Success Motivation Institute, and I got to tell you, maybe there's only one or two people that have ever heard of Paul J. Meyer, but that's been quite a while. But the point is that I worked with C-suite managers in deciding what the business goals should be, and then helping each executive decide what their goals were, and then work with them also individually on what their family goals would be to match up with all of this, which honestly created a lot of longevity in a company. So I've worked with varying degrees of their goals, right? And that's what you're working on, is what do you want to achieve with your nest egg, right? As you are building it. My company, the company that my business partner and I co-founded, The Secret Weapon Inc., and now my company, because she went on to do other things, is called TSW Consultants. And everybody goes, okay, Kari, but those aren't your initials, so what's the secret weapon? And I have to tell you, the secret weapon is profit, whether it's in your home or it's in your business. And honestly, business owners seem to play hide and seek with profit. They think revenue is the game, and it's not. And households don't think of profit in general. They don't really look at it that way. So that's why I really enjoy what we do now. But let me point out that when I was creating strategic plans, now I've done full-blown strategic plans for brick and mortar businesses, for service businesses, and especially three high-performing real estate teams, and two financial teams. And the one thing that I have to say I'm a little embarrassed about is the one line item that we did not put on their strategic plan, and that was retire debt. We bought into that good debt, bad debt whole conversation, which I'm anxious to have today, because that's really an important piece, right? We all say, oh, well, that's good debt. Okay, so let's change the conversation. Let's change it to good interest and bad interest. Did you know that your good interest, you could still be paying, your good debt, you could still be paying more bad interest than you need to? That's the point here. So, and the balance between a write-off, which have changed, and really what could happen when you pay your debt off sooner. So like our program, our software takes up to 28 mortgages. So I know most of you are doing it in a consortium, you're together and you get to a piece of the real estate. But if any of you are doing it that way, that you are actually buying, and I heard somebody's doing some buy and hold things, that the mortgages as part of a system that actually uses algorithms to tell you exactly when you can get that paid off, save tens of thousands and sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest, and invest in the next one or invest in the next group, right? So that's why I love changing the conversation from good debt, bad debt to good interest, bad interest. Yes, OP money is valuable. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But we do not have to pay all of the interest that they're asking, because algorithms can show exactly how much to move. And it isn't always moving it towards debt. How much to move, exactly what date to move it or pay. Date matters, right? And how to float. So those are some really sophisticated, they're easy concepts to think of, but to do it on spreadsheets yourself, that's what we eliminate in what we do. What I really wanted to do is bring attention to how much we're actually paying, especially with mortgage rates going up, right? We're now in the 5% range, or what people call 5%, right? In a mortgage, or some are even going 6%, depending on if you're investing and so forth. If you're an investor or if you're a home buyer, they're a little bit different, right? And the investment mortgages are quite high. Do you know what that turns out to be in your total interest percentage? Anybody ever looked up what their TIP is on, this is your homework, what, and Cliff's nodding, so you might know.
3.25%.
Say it again.
3.25% rate is a 55% TIP, total interest percentage.
Total interest percentage, that's low for right now. 55% would be low. Right now, and they're in the 90 to over 100 percentile right now in that when you say that your interest rate is 5.5%, 6%, that's low.
Yeah, well, if the interest rates are at 5.5, 6, yes, but at 3.25, it was at 55% for the TIP.
Perfect.
Yeah.
He knows. I love this. At a 3.
Yeah, that's on page 5 of the closing disclosure agreement in your closing packet.
I love it. And how many people read that?
Nobody. And most of the realtors or mortgage brokers will actually gloss over it whenever they're going by that because they're scared you're going to see it and freak out and back out.
Right?
Yeah.
And hey, we're glad that we can get into a mortgage and only pay $1,200, $1,800 when all is said and done with escrow and everything else, right? And insurance. That's awesome. I mean, this is the deal, right? And we love that opportunity, no doubt about it. But as you said, Cliff, most people do not know what their total interest percentage is. And when they look, and so you've heard people say, well, I'm doing one of the common ways of paying, well, the most common way of paying debt is to pay the minimum. 60% of Americans pay the minimum. It's actually a little over 60%. So that's the most common way. But if someone's going to tackle debt, they have several different options they think about, and they think, well, maybe I should pay the highest interest rate first. Problem is they don't know what the highest interest rate, because your credit card at 17.99 is not higher than your 55.8% or whatever you came up with, right? It's not. So we should be paying down our mortgage. Well, maybe, but is that what we should be doing every month? How much money should go to it? The other method, of course, is debt snowball and pay the smallest balance first. But that's only an emotional solution. That is not a mathematical solution. Emotionally, it's working great for a lot of people, but it also means that you have to be on a top ramen diet. And that is absolutely not the truth. And we're going to talk about sweet spot in just a minute. That's not the truth. You do not have to. And here's what we have with professionals all the time, because professionals, once they understand what we do, realize, and I'm talking about the financial professionals, real estate, mortgage, all of them, they realize that we can be an ally for their clients as opposed to sucking up all that extra money just to go to debt and not leaving any for their investments or protection if you're in insurance. And that is not true in any way, because mathematically there is a sweet spot. And that's what I love about the system that I use. I get to take all of your information in. I don't need any account numbers or anything. I just want raw data, right? So I can take all of that information in, take a look at what you bring in, what your debt is, and my system will say, okay, how much do I get to play with? Well, here's the thing. Most people in debt are throwing money. They use the dartboard method. That's the fourth method, right? Pay the minimum, debt avalanche, debt snowball, and dartboard. And most of us are doing dartboard. They send a little extra. So whenever I take information in, I say, so what's your payment? You know, your minimum payment. And they say, oh, it's $189. And they said, how much do you pay? And they go, oh, I usually pay $2.25. So we don't know if this month that's how much extra you should be putting at that bill, or maybe it should be split up, right? And the algorithms, the system lets you do, does all of that calculation for you. And that's so I take all of that extra money that they throw at all of their bills and I put it in a lump sum, and then I give it to the system to decide. Because as we had one client who, he's a client, he owns the program. This is cool, right? And we have a lot of agricultural clients because you know how their income fluctuates. Can you pay bills? Can you not? Life changes constantly, right? If they're having to buy seed, if they're having to buy equipment, and I have a couple of canola farmers up in Canada that I work with as well. And by the way, our program does work in Canada, though I know your mortgages work very differently. I get it. But he had our program, and he got a windfall, not really a windfall. He sold a piece of equipment for $30,000. And one of his agricultural loans was just bugging the heck out of him. Isn't that the way it happens for most of us? We have an emotional attachment to some of that, or emotional regret for some of the loans that we have or any of the credit that we have. So he decided this was the one that he wanted to pay off. So we had $30,000. His piece of property was a $30,000 loan. Boom, done, saved $9,000. Woohoo! So he's talking to his representative, and his rep says, well, you know, just for grins and giggles, why don't you just put it through the system and see what the system might say? The system would have split that $30,000 into 3 different bills and saved him $16,000 in interest. So the whole point is that no matter what we're doing, we're still guessing. No matter how educated our guests may be, and some of them are more educated than others, no doubt. However, nothing can do the same as algorithms can do it so quickly for us. And that's the beauty of what, you know, I love working with our system. Our analysis is free, so I get to do that for anybody and everybody. And I talked about sweet spots. So I would take let's say a client's information or a prospect's information in and give you a chance to see what is there. And I would take that money that you normally throw at your bills, and I would put it in a lump sum and let it tell us how much of that it will, you know, how it would allocate that and how soon you will be out of debt. Well, here's the fun part. Sometimes I say, we don't need all of that money. I get to play with the system and say, okay, $11, $111, $411, because they're throwing $11. So this is one example of one of my clients. And he had $11 in discretionary income he was throwing, and I said, okay, we'll just use that. And then we'll add $100, $400. Where's the sweet spot? For him, the sweet spot was the $11. So 24.4 years in debt turned out to be 11.4 years in debt, saving him over $93,000 by just using $11 a month.
Wow.
That's what's possible. This is where I get so excited. We want to help one family at a time by showing them where their debt is really killing them unnecessarily. And I don't mean debt as a bad word. Hey, OP money is a great, unfortunately, people don't think of debt as OP money, but it really is, isn't it? And other people's money is where it's at. That's fantastic. But let's understand where interest can be good interest and bad interest, and how it can be paid down because of that. And not knowing what our TIP is, so go to that 5th page or so in your mortgage, or it has to also be on your statement. Unfortunately, most people don't get a paper statement anymore, and they never look past how much do I owe. So they never see what their total interest percentage is on their mortgages. That's the shame of it, right? It's one of the things that we're kind of like this. La 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 la. I don't want to know because I don't know what to do about it. I'm just going to pay it, so never mind, right? We had one client. It was really fun. You know, life happens. Their car went out. They had already had in their mind they were going to buy a new car, $30,000. I think it was $35,000. This wasn't my client. This was a colleague's. And they thought, okay, well, we're okay with that. We can do that. We'll get a 60-month loan. All is good. And they put it through the system to find out how much longer it was going to put them in debt. Even though they got a 60-month loan, it was only going to put them in debt 1 month longer than they already were. 1 month. And they went, oh, maybe we don't have to get such a conservative car. Look at that. We could spend more money. And the car they really wanted only kept them in debt 7 months longer than their debt package is going to be no matter what. So having real-time information to make these decisions is amazing. The system is completely proactive, and that's what I love to show people what's possible. Whether you become a client or not, it doesn't matter. But to be able to show this to you and what your possibilities are, and that it frees up money for you to invest. You've got Nest Egg here. Come on, Nest Egg Builders is ready to do that with you and help you build that. But most people don't know how much money they actually have. We usually uncover $400 to $700 a month that clients don't even know that is actually discretionary. It's pretty fascinating to watch what happens, you know. So I've been going on and on. I'd love to take questions. I just get, I'm kind of passionate about what I do. And I never knew all this existed, that it was possible. I honestly was completely uninformed. And when I learned all of this, I sort of now stand on a soapbox a bit.
Well, I have a question. I'm looking at all these multifamily investors going into what I consider bad debt because they're giving only a 3.5% to 4% return to their investors, and they're paying a 4 to 5% loan. And I don't see how they're not going to go into bankruptcy and lose the property. Is there a way that, is there something that they could look at? I mean, it's my concern. It's not their concern, but I won't allow, I won't allow, that's me. If it's not good enough for me, it's not good enough for you.
Sure.
Is there a way that I could maybe look at something like that and figure out that maybe the debt isn't as bad as I think it is? Because I have family offices sitting on the sidelines just waiting for these young people who have gone in and what we consider a bad offer, just waiting for them to, and they say they're going to buy the loan from the banks at pennies on the dollars.
Well, because it's gone into foreclosure is why they're buying it.
In a couple of years, the rates just went up, but rates will probably continue to go up. And to me, these guys are putting bad deals together. And I'm just wondering if they're as bad as I think they are. But I hear family offices telling me that we're sitting on the sidelines holding our cash because we're going to come in and buy them from the bank at pennies on the dollar.
That would make sense in the outcome. But who's holding the money in the meantime? I mean, is your money doing anything until they buy them? I'm not sure how that works for you.
So 10 or 15 or 25 people, we'll say 25 people put their money into those, they bring in the equity, and 75% is debt. But the debt is higher. The debt is higher than higher than the value of the building.
Gotcha. Well, the challenge is you're not dealing with the one owner. So who's paying those mortgages? That's the problem. Well, who's going to be paying the bank? And they're the ones that we deal with.
When you have the PPM on that too, and the PPM requires specific performance guarantees back to the investors on the LP side. So when you're talking about debt acceleration on that, they still have to meet their obligations on the PPM.
Yes, but your version of debt acceleration is usually spending more money to pay down the debt.
Well, you're talking about using the same amount of money that's already there, discretionary money, but that discretionary money with a multifamily property that is in a situation where you're syndicating, that money's already allocated and is set aside for a specific purpose.
Sure.
So you can't just arbitrarily pull that money discretionary aside and use it for anything else.
And I haven't either in many of my situations with mortgages. It also works with a mortgage that we haven't put any discretionary income towards. So it is all about the timing of the payments and the way that the money is moved. So it's very interesting. And so it is a possibility. But then you're not actually dealing with the person who's making those mortgage payments, are you? I mean,
I can. I'll just pick up the phone and call them and talk to them.
So it would be interesting to run those analysis again. Just let's find out what's possible. I have had it possible and work for many, so it just depends. Again, I'm looking at a lot of factors to make sure, and especially when you're an investor and you're expecting a return, the thing about most investors, and I understand when you're using, the performance guarantee and you're using a complete group of investors, but I have investors that are looking at, they're only getting maybe 10, 15% on a door, right? When if it were paid off, they would be getting 80% or 85%. And that completely outweighs what they get in a tax deduction. I mean, by far. Right?
I could see that being an option for someone that's non-syndicated, but once you're syndicated, the performance guarantees that are in there, it makes it more challenging for you to allocate funds outside of that PPM to anything else. And unless you're offering loan modifications, which I'm not sure that you are, I don't know how you could do that.
Never.
Because the money is the money.
It is and it isn't, because it depends on how. That's why the system works so well, and it isn't really. It seems like that, and that's what we're used to being told. So it would be very interesting to take just some figures. Again, I don't even care what properties it is and so forth, but put it through my system and see what's possible, Cliff. I think it would make it a fascinating case study, just to see what's possible. I don't know that it would be the same situation for a consortium deal. Because I do understand what you're saying. The money is money. I mean, the allocation is the allocation. There's no wiggle room, if you will. So, but I have done that with households that have no wiggle room, and they still are out of their debt in 1/3 the time. So it's possible. I don't know that it would happen, but it'd be fun to take a look at.
Yeah, a lot of these people do, and I don't know if that fits into anything that you do, is they'll put a 5-year note on their property. It might be interest only, and then at the end of 5 years, they'll go into another loan. What they don't understand is in 5 years, they have no idea where the interest rates will be. So they really, to me, once again, they really put their investors on a line, because if they're in a 3.5-4% loan now, and in 5 years they're in a 7% loan, they are never going to get out of. They're never going to have any cash flow.
That's true. Well, and just look at. I mean, for home, I'm going to take a simple homeowner. It's the same thing. Just make a correlation here, because when you are in a loan, let's go for a 30-year loan for just a moment. Even if it's a 7-year loan, right? Where is the interest being paid percentage-wise? Well, it's up front. They're going to get their percentage up front, right? 72% of the payment ends up going to interest. So now I have homeowners that are 15 years in, and now they're only paying maybe 30% in interest. They want to refi and go back to 82% interest. That their dollar is going, 82% of their dollar is going to interest, and that's not a smart move, generally speaking. Then they get into the last 10 years where you really aren't paying as much interest. Well, it's the same thing on even a shorter, on a short loan as well. It's still front loaded with interest, so you're constantly refinancing and setting the clock over again.
Yes.
That's the challenge here. I understand the shuffling of money. I do get that. However, they're resetting the clock and costing themselves more in many cases.
Right, absolutely. Does anybody have any questions? Does everybody understand what Kari was talking about? That would kind of be important, that you understood. Okay.
Yeah, it's a different thing. Well, and even credit cards, the debt on credit cards is always pretty interesting, because some credit cards, the general is, here's your payment, right? Your payment consists of the interest for that month, always. You pay the interest for that month, and hopefully plus 1% of the balance is going to the balance, right? But the challenge is, after doing this for 4.5 years, I have seen them as low as 0.2% of your, 0.2% of the balance is all you have to pay towards the balance. Do you know how long that takes you to pay off? That's crazy. That's crazy. And because over 60% of Americans are paying the minimum, they have no idea what is actually happening with that particular debt.
Yeah, they're just paying the interest. They're not paying any principal.
But we wouldn't know that. I didn't know that before getting into this and really learning, taking my my amortization classes and really delving into it. I wouldn't know. Why would we know, right? It's OP money, but I'm doing it for good things. I'm buying business equipment with it. It's okay, right?
Not okay. That's why you have a budget, so you don't go over your budget.
Yes, but budget still doesn't take care of the possibility of reducing the interest because of the way it's paid. You would have to do a new spreadsheet every time you moved money to be able to do what we do on the push of a button.
So if you're paying cash for everything, or you're putting it on a credit card and paying the credit card off every month, you're not paying any interest, or is there something incorrect about that?
Well, only that if you do owe money anywhere, every time you spend cash, it is not the $70 that you're going to spend to go out to dinner. It really costs you $81. That's the value of the money. And that's the beauty of having a system that says, okay, we want to go out to dinner tonight and we're going to go to Ruth's Chris and spend $150. But it's aware of what my debt is now. And it says, yes, but that $150 is really a $178 expenditure because you're not using it for debt. Now, should you still decide to go to dinner? Absolutely. That's not the point. The point is being informed. We're not informed at all. We just think it's cash, it's cash, it's cash. It's easy. We just go spend it and there's no debt to it. But there is. If we still have debt, then it's costing us more because it's not being used towards the interest that's spilling out of our pockets every day.
Well, if you're paying your credit card off every month, there is no debt.
But if you still have a mortgage, if you still have another credit card, if you still have a car loan, you still have debt. Not that one in particular. But it's costing you more than you realize. And that's what I love about a dynamic system that allows you to look at it, to have real-time information to make your real-time decisions. Doesn't mean you should make a different decision. It just means, wow, I can understand this. That's why most of our clients are 20% ahead of what they expected to be when they went into this. And we warranty the program. So we say, once you go into it, we've got all your information. This is how much you're going to save. And this is the exact date you will be out of debt with everything you've got here. And most of our clients are 20% ahead.
That's great.
Yeah. But that, you know why? It's because they're seeing it. When you can't see it, you don't know, you're not doing anything about it, right? And we know something that's watched grows.
Yes, it does.
Right?
Yes, it does.
Thank you for letting me share.
Question.
Yes, please.
So, Kari, it's fascinating information here that you're sharing. And does your system give suggestions on a monthly basis, quarterly, annual basis of how to spend the cash, whether to pay the bills? I guess mostly to pay the bills.
Yes, it will show you after you make one movement of money, it will tell you what the next one is. And let's say you get a commission, you get a $20,000 commission this month. You can tell the system, I only want to use $4,000 of it. I'm putting the rest of it into an investment. Tell me what $4,000 would do for my debt, and how would it be allocated? How much time would it reduce my debt by, and how much interest will I be saving if I do that? So that's the cool thing about the system is you get to tell it what you want to use, or it will tell you do this, and this is there's a dashboard. So you're always watching your countdown. You're watching your interest countdown and your time countdown, right? And you can accelerate that if you want to, or if life happens and you can't do anything about it right now, then you don't.
Okay, so the goal then that you propose is to lower the interest of the debt?
When you say lower the interest, what do you mean by that?
I thought you just said that what shows is on the dashboard is to lower the interest
saved. So when you say lower interest, it always makes me think of lowering an interest rate, and that's not what that's not possible, right? Unless you're refinancing. This is to save interest, and so what you're watching
interest, okay.
Yeah. You're watching how much you've saved so far and that you're saving more. You get to see how much that payment actually saved. So let me give you a quick example. Often people we are saying, okay, well, I'm going to make, I'm going to put another $100 at my debt, right? I'll put another $100, let's say on the mortgage, I'll put another $100 in. But often what is even better, and the system tells you what you should be doing, but putting $100 aside for 3 months and then putting it together and paying down the principal, that will actually reduce your interest more than the one a month. So this is what we don't know unless we actually sat down with those spreadsheets and spent 30 hours a week doing them. This is what it does in a push of a button, and it tells you where your money is best served. And sometimes it's not spending it right now towards your debt. That's not what it will always tell you to do. So the system is not only telling you what to do, you can put any scenario in it and go, gee, is this a good scenario? Do I think I want to do this? Is this the right car? Is this the right home? Is this the right investment property? You put it in there and it will tell you what's going to happen, what could happen with your money, not what the bank thinks will happen with your money, but what, if you put it through the system, what will happen with your money. And you say, well, that's a much better deal than I thought it was. I'm ready. Or no, erase that. I'm going to do something else.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting the picture of saving interest based on past performance. And next question has to do with new debt, or playing with the idea of having more debt as part of the business, such as a real estate investor. Does your system allow for simulations on
Yes,
on that?
completely. Before you buy it, you should run it through. That's someone who owns the system. That's what they all do, and that's why I say we can take up to 28 mortgages in. I mean, we can take all kind. I mean, I can take more than that, but just in the system as it sits on the shelf, it can take 28 mortgages just to start with. So you have the opportunity, and I have investors that sit with their phone and go to the website and say, okay, that's the property, this is my interest rate, I'm pretty sure that's what I would get, you know, I don't have any PMI, but here's my, and you know, escrow would be, what my payment would be, how long will I be in debt, and I'm taking out, let's just say, a 30-year mortgage, but I'll have it paid off in 11 years. So many times people are saying, well, I should take a shorter mortgage so my payments are bigger, but I will be out sooner. Take the 30-year and use the system and let it tell you how quickly you can get out of it. And it will do it. That's the beauty of it. It's kind of amazing. Plus, you don't have to risk if interest rates change, your investments change, you've got an empty property. You know, there are all kinds of possibilities of not being able to keep up with payments at some point in our financial career, right? So taking that 30 could be, I'm not saying it is, we do it by the math, not by what I guess. And with the math, often it tells you that's the better deal because you have more flexibility, right? But you still could be out in 11 years, even though you were going to take out a 15-year loan.
Okay. So then the second goal that I'm capturing here is, so first goal, save interest, second goal, pay off debt for some people.
Well, and you say some people, and I'm going to say, I still urge you to look at the math. If you paid off even that 15-year loan in 11 years, you have all of those payments you would have made for the next 4 years to the 15-year. You have all of that money available to you, right? You would have that as opposed to what you were about to spend for it. And that versus what you get in a tax write-off often is not, does not balance out. It is on the balance sheet, actually, it often comes out that you are better off paying off the debt. But the problem is, in our mind, we keep thinking, are we better off spending more money to pay off our debt? And that's not what I'm talking about at all. I am talking about generally using less than what people are spending on their debt right now because they're doing dartboard.
Thank you.
Right? I mean, haven't we all done dartboard? I certainly did before I understood how this worked. I hope that's making sense to you. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is totally. It made sense. So first, save interest. Second, pay off debt if makes sense.
So you can invest more.
What's that?
So you can invest more.
So you can invest more. Yeah, more available cash. And third, use the same amount of money you want to spend monthly, but just use it differently.
Wisely.
Yeah.
Well, and wisely would be great if we could make those decisions on our own. That's why, you know, with even educated guesses, we still have we've beat everybody with educated guesses doing this. We've had some that said they were going to do spreadsheets for 6 months and try to beat the system. I know. And I'm talking every time money has moved, you got to change the spreadsheet. And they still lost by $2,000. And after 3 months, they said, you know, this was a waste of my time.
All right. Well, that's good. Yeah. So I was thinking, okay, well, as a passive investor, we're investing with somebody else. Maybe we should have them look at the debt before we go in with them and see.
Interesting.
Because they can only, now I could be incorrect about this. I mean, they could use the whole system for themselves if they want, but they have an obligation to their investors.
Yes.
And so it would be on that one debt. And if all there is one debt, does that make a difference?
It has made a difference. I have seen it make a difference in somebody who just has one mortgage. Yes, weirdly as it sounds, but yes, I have. So again, I don't make any claims until I really see the money, the numbers, and we do everything by the numbers. So I wouldn't venture to make sure of that, but yes, it has happened. Here's the thing that's interesting, in a weird term, used home, right? But Greenfield, when you've got a builder can add this into the price of the home and sell it with the home so that their homeowner is going to be able to take advantage of this and own their home faster. That's awesome. So I do love to work with builders. I haven't personally, I'm looking for builders. One of my colleagues has worked with builders, and it's just an amazing opportunity. But you can't do that with the regular mortgage market, right? That's just not an option.
So you're saying that they put a construction loan in and then they put in a regular mortgage that could be assumed?
No, the construction loan, they get to set the price of the home, so they can set the price of the home to include this. We have had them do that.
Oh, and then the people still get their own loan when they buy it.
When they buy it, right?
Right.
But I'm saying.
Oh, you're right. So he could price the builder, he could price it correctly rather than guessing, because they do have a lot of debt. I mean, they have a high debt on a construction loan. And usually the construction company holds the money, or the bank holds the money, which they are also getting interest. You don't have use of the money, but they're still getting interest. So I bet that's quite an algorithm to run.
Right. Exactly. Now I always feel like when I see these, we have pictures of the algorithms that it uses, and I always feel like I want to get an eraser and just erase that board. Boy, I can't imagine having to run that thing again, right?
Yeah.
So I'm TSW Consultants. You can find me on Facebook. And I would love to, run a scenario for you and let you just see what's possible for you, for your clients, however that might work. And we have a lot
Would you put your contact information in the chat, please?
Yes, I would love to.
People can get a hold of you. It sounds very, very interesting. And we have quite a few people that didn't show up this week. So I think we'd like to come back at some time. And it would be fun if somebody actually ended up working with you from the show.
I was just going to say, wouldn't that be awesome? Yeah, we could.
That'd be awesome. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they would let themselves be an example. So like that would be great. So does anyone else have any other questions? Thoughts? Yes, Lisa. We can't hear you, hon.
Hi.
Yeah.
This is very interesting. Thank you so much. I used to, I don't know what it's called, a TIP or whatever, but I always see that every time our mortgage gets bought by another company, because you see that, and then the interest that goes in. I mean, the rates are the same and everything's the same, but you still see that you still owe a lot. The thing is, I've seen this being offered by banks. Like if you do, you're still, let's say your mortgage is $3,000 a month. So you pay that every month, but then they sometimes offer like split it into two, like $1,500 now, $1,500 at the end, like just buy every 2 weeks. And I know that you have that additional $1,500, one payment. That way it reduces it. So is that better than, as you said, adding, because I used to do that too, like adding 200 to your monthly that would go to the principal?
Well, you'd hope it would go to the principal, and I'm just going to say you're
Yeah.
probably more savvy than most. But honestly, you have to be sure it's actually all going to principal, because it's not going to principal today. Generally, it's going to the principal at the end. So they are going to
Oh,
do it today because today
it's
is
heavily
mostly
on the interest.
interest. They want the larger interest, right? So the percentage
Oh,
of it. So this is what we don't know, right?
okay.
It depends. And when I say it depends, it's important to know these things. So
Yeah.
that is part of it. Again, I have to erase in everybody's mind that paying down debt doesn't mean throwing more money at it. That's what's so amazing about this. It just doesn't have to be that way. May it be some money? Yes. Will it be the amount everybody's thinking they have to do to pay out my debt? They always look so weighed down when I say that. They go, oh, I just can't do that. Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we have been brainwashed into thinking that way, right? Because it
Yeah.
stops us from investing, buying insurance, from knowing where our money should actually be going, letting you guys help with the money. This is really what the sad part is most people out here could be using their money differently.
Yeah.
And so I get excited about how introducing them to you, right? Because I have people that now we get to show them where they're going to have money to start investing. And I get to introduce them to people like you who get to show them what's possible on the other end.
That's exciting.
Thank you.
I have another question because I don't know how your system works, but I know that a lot of young people coming out of college end up with a lot of debt, and they come out with $30,000 and $50,000 and even more debt, and how long it will take them to pay off. This is the kind of thing that would be very helpful to them. It probably would be a great graduation gift, actually.
No kidding. Well,
So
it's for life, yeah.
could you tell me a little bit about how it works? Is it like an online in the cloud or something where you just pay a monthly
You don't
something?
pay a monthly fee. Once someone owns it, they own it for life and all of the updates and everything else. So it's an amazing gift, especially for those coming out of college. And I'm going to tell you also for people who are in their early 60s that want to retire their debt before they retire. Their student loan debt before they retire. I have a lot of MDs and master's degree program people in their early 60s and late 50s that are saying, I just want my student loan debt paid off. They've already done it now. They've been clients for 2 years and they already paid her master's degree off. But she gets to retire, and she's retiring. What month is this? She retires next month.
So you're telling me that they're just paying their children's debt.
Theirs.
They've had 40 years of debt.
Absolutely. I run into healthcare professionals, doctors, dentists are some of the worst. And I don't mean they're bad. I just mean worse loans, right? That are still sitting out there. No, I'm talking about their own debt. Own debt.
And
Yeah.
Jamila has a question.
Yeah, Jamila.
You're muted, Jamila.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry about that. So I have a quick question. I was trying to pay down one of my loans, and I gave like a little chunk, and then I thought since the interest rate is going up to 6 point whatever right now, and the my loan is 4.3, I said let me use that money to pull it out, so it's still the same amount of time I'm going to pay it, but I'm only paying $700 a month instead of $1,400 a month, say. So the program. So two things. With the program now, would that still be? I still have time to pull that offer back and then use your program. But is it still the wise? Because I'm thinking if I pay off my low 4.3 loans,
I understand.
and then I've got to go into a 6 point something, I could have saved that money to go.
I do understand what you're saying, I think, and
Okay.
I'd love to run it for you, right away before you go into that. I totally get that. But what about how long have you been in the loan? So if it restarts your interest rate, so the interest rate you're paying now, maybe only, and I don't mean by interest rate, let me say interest percentage. The percentage of your payment may be down to 60% or 40%. You restart the clock and now it's back up at 82%.
Oh,
See what I'm saying?
I don't think I'm restarting it. I just think that they're going to take that, say 50,000
I think
and,
so. So let's find out.
uh-huh.
I don't
Uh-oh.
know. I'm just challenging you that it may not be as
Oh,
it seems. That's
and
all.
what's the question to ask them? Are you restarting me or you're
Well,
just,
and generally, if you're signing new paperwork, that's what they're doing is they're restarting the clock. So you would need to look at the amortization schedule from them, right? How much am I going to, what's the percentage you would be paying in interest in your first payment versus the percentage of interest that you're paying now? So the percentage could be greater. I don't know. It depends
uh-huh.
on what they're, I don't know. That's why
Jamila,
I run everything.
Jamila missed the front end of she came
Yeah.
in a little late, so she missed about the tip. Is that what it's
Now, the
called?
total interest payment, the whole thing is that I'm watching people refinance because they want to get a lower interest rate, right? But they've been in the loan for 15 years and they're
Yeah.
just about to go into where they're paying mostly principal
Yeah.
and resetting the clock to where they're throwing away all this interest
Yeah. That's why I
and
didn't
they're
do
not
it.
actually gaining on their principal,
Yeah.
right? So that's the challenge here is let's find out. I don't know sitting here. I
Yeah.
know I have a tool that lets me help you find that out, but I don't really know, right?
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
depends.
Awesome. Awesome. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Okay. Let me call, but I did think about that when the loans were 2%. I'm like, I'm already, I'm already pretty out of it. One
Yeah,
of them. Yeah.
and I agree with you. I do understand that, but then again, interest doesn't equal interest. It just
Yeah.
sounds like it, right?
Yeah.
Because and I don't know if you heard Cliff say earlier, what was it? A 3.5% mortgage was 55% tip.
Yeah, 3.25 is approximately 55% total interest percentage.
Yes. So we think we're paying only 3.25, but in reality, we're not paying $7,000 on a $200,000 loan. That would be 3.25 in simple interest, right? But that's not what's happening. So we don't really think in terms of,
Yeah.
oh, it's actually a 55% loan in simple interest. Holy cats, right?
Wow. Yeah. That's a
Of
trip.
course we don't think of that. I mean,
Yeah.
as Cliff had said earlier, they take those pieces of paper and kind of shuffle them this way while you're signing the ones that don't have that number on it, which is, and believe me, I'm not saying that a mortgage is bad. I think it's the way we get into homes, we get into investment properties. It's an awesome tool. The challenge is we just don't know how it works. We're not informed enough. And we go on our merry way and we make our payments and realize I didn't have to pay more than twice for my house,
Yes.
right? Which right now, with interest rates going where they are, they could be over 100% in total
Wow.
interest percentage. We're finding that we've run a few brand new homeowners come to us and want to get a jump on it, right? Because they know what's happening in the economy. We're all a little worried. So having
And
a system.
I also didn't realize that this can be used for any kind of a loan, not just mortgage.
Any debt, any
Anything,
debt.
personal loan, doesn't matter. I have
Wow.
taken people with $50,000. I had, I don't know, I did a couple of seminars today, so if I'm repeating myself, just tell me I am. But I have one gal that they were $50,000 in debt, and a consolidator got a hold of them. And so they signed the paperwork, and then and I don't mean by consolidate, they were going to, they didn't have a mortgage, they were refinancing and rolling this debt into it. It was completely no mortgage because they had been scammed out of several million. And so now they were into this,
Uh, oh,
so they had 50,000 in debt. She signed the paperwork. It was going to cost her $13,000 on top of what debt was left after their negotiations. And she said, okay, I didn't know what you were doing, so let me at least give you my figures. And I got to run her figures as though she weren't in consolidation. What we have been able to do when she signed that paperwork, she'd have been out in 2.5 years spending no more than she was already spending on her bills. I did not use any discretionary income. 0 was the dollar figure I used. And she would have been out in 2.5 years. She's still not out to this date. And that
oh,
was 4.5 years ago.
Oh no.
Right. And do you think you stopped getting into debt at that point? Well, I'm sorry, but no. For the
Right.
most part, we don't, right?
Right.
People don't change.
Yep. Well, and it's not that, it's their law. I mean, I understand where they are and what, and she's building a business and all of that, which is great. I mean, but it isn't all, it doesn't matter if it's good debt, it's still bad interest. So I
Yeah.
hope you'll go away when people say good debt, bad debt, and you'll think, yes, but bad interest is in there somewhere. There's enough of it that I don't have to be paying if I do this right.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank
Great
Interesting.
question. Please
And
email
Carrie,
me, give me
yes,
a call, text me, I'm open.
right. And thank you very much for coming on the show today. It was most informative.
Thank you for
I
the invite.
I feel like I learned something new.
Yay. And you know what? I'd love for you to just go through the free analysis, 2 or 3 of you, and let's come back in a few weeks or a couple months, and do this again and find out what you learned. I would love to be able to do that.
That would be great. Thank you very much.